my 10 most polarizing, controversial, and potentially offensive drumming beliefs. It is time to hashtag get offended today. But here's the deal. My goal isn't just to offend people. My goal isn't just to ruffle feathers today. I believe that each of these beliefs can help your drumming in powerful ways. These 10 beliefs are essentially 10 mini lessons that can solve a whole bunch of drumming frustration that I bet you can relate to and set your playing on a totally new trajectory. So whether you agree with me or not, let's do this because you are fully capable of accomplishing these things I'm going to share with you today. Let's do it. Hey, welcome to the Non-Glamorous Drummer, where we're all about helping you reach your goals and your dreams on the drums by giving you the core skills that really matter so you can grow more quickly, even if you've just got 30 minutes a day. I want you to be able to sit down and play whatever song you want to play because you've got the foundation there. You've got the right hand technique, the right coordination. That's what we're all about here at the Non-Glamorous Drummer. And hey, along those lines, I want you to grab my free gift to you. It's a free e-guide called Know What to Practice, the 3-part daily practice routine for getting maximum results and reaching your goals in just 30 minutes a day. In other words, if you're a busy drummer with a normal life, if you have a life and you've got work and you've got family, other life obligations, you need to master the drums in less time, right? We all want to reach our goals more quickly. And this guide's going to help you do that because it'll give you the very core key things that really help you grow. How to solve your weak hand, how to build fluidity around the kit. There's a bunch of concrete specific coordination exercises that'll really help your feet, help you build comfort level behind the drum so you can play whatever you want to play. Most of all, this helps you stop wasting time. It helps you stay out of ruts because it always shows you here's exactly what you can be working on. It's going to help you identify weaknesses so you can grow faster, so that you can reach your goals, reach those ultimate dreams, even if you feel like you lack talent, even if you feel like you don't have the time. Dedicate the time. All you need is a little bit of work ethic here, a little bit of discipline, and you can most definitely do it. So download the guide, yours totally for free. Let's dig into today's lesson, getting into these 10 polarizing drumming beliefs. I'm excited to share these with you. Polarizing belief number 1. You should always have at least a 1-inch spacing between your hi-hats. Now, this one always sparks some controversy because of the metal drummers out there, or any drummer who's using a double bass pedal often wants to keep the hats a little bit more closed so that when you take your foot off of the hi-hat pedal, you can still play open hat notes that sound half decent. Because really to play a good sounding open hat note, you want to have the hats just barely sloshy for that sizzle potential versus up here. And so if I take my foot off and hit them, that's no good. And so there are drummers out there who want to keep them a little bit lower. There's a lot of problems with that. And one is that you can't play a firm chick if you've only got this much room to work with. That's like trying to hit the snare hard starting with a 1-inch stick height. It's impossible. Or trying to play loudly on the bass drum with a beater angle of right here. You've got to give yourself some space, especially if you want to be able to do splashes and sizzles. And those are cool musical techniques, but I think even most commonly, most practically, you want to be able to play cool sounding open hat notes where instead of just playing like, if I adjust my hi-hats to here, here's what my open hat notes are all going to sound like. And for a beginner drummer, I understand how that's a little bit easier, but in the long term, that's not going to serve you well because what you want to be able to do is something more like this. Where the sound develops throughout the duration of the note. So when you hit the hats, they're about right here. Then they open up, then you're able to close them more firmly because you've got that distance, and so you can have a cleaner ending to the note. Those are a whole bunch of reasons why you need to have at least an inch spacing. Now on the back side of my hats, because of the angle here of the bottom hat, it's a little bit less than an inch. But it's probably about 1.5 inches here on the front side. So you wanted to average out to about 1 inch. That's usually a sweet spot. You don't really have to go any further than that, 1.25 inches, like that 3 centimeter range is as far as you might want to go because eventually it just becomes a little too much. But you definitely don't want to have less than that. So that's something that it tends to offend the people who would rather take the short-term easy solution or have their foot go back and forth between the hi-hat and the double bass pedal. If you're doing that, if you're doing the double bass thing, then really you ought to have 2 hi-hat stands and have another hi-hat stand that keeps the hats about right here, sizzly, and then another one that's adjusted the way it ought to be. That way you can do the open hat thing whenever you want to, and maybe you have one of those clutches that allows the hats to drop. And so there are solutions for this. I encourage you to adjust your hats the right way. If you're going to have hi-hats, play them well, play them right. Belief number 2, you don't need to play heel up in order to play loud and fast on the bass drum. This is something that I encountered very early on in my playing. I was wanting to stay heel down, and I found that it seems like everybody on YouTube was saying, oh, you gotta be heel up if you're gonna play fast. If you're gonna do double bass, you definitely gotta be heel up. And I remember just adamantly being like, no, I don't wanna go heel up because it doesn't make sense to me. First, I'll preface this by saying I've surveyed you guys before, and I know that about half of you are heel up, half of you are heel down. And so those of you who are heel up, who are comfortable with that, that's totally fine. I'm not getting onto you for being heel up. My point is that if you choose to be heel down, that's totally fine. Know that you can do heel down and get just as much volume and just as much speed as heel up. What it comes down to is building the strength. If you're playing heel down, a lot of times for beginner drummers, it's hard to play loudly and quickly heel down starting out because there's not a lot of strength here yet. But as you build up that strength, it becomes easy to accomplish the same things heel down as you would heel up. And so if you work at it, and if you say, all right, I'm going to play heel down, make sure you're sitting far enough back that your leg angle isn't like this, because that does not work heel down, and that's where people run into trouble and switch back to heel up. If you're going to do heel down, make sure you're sitting further back, and just over time, practice the loud playing, practice building up the strength so that you're able to play. You'll find that unless you're trying to play like extreme metal or something that I know I'm not into, and most of you guys probably aren't either, or you wouldn't be following this channel, you don't need insanely fast speeds. You don't need foot insanity. And for most songs you're going to play, you can accomplish everything you need to heel down. So my encouragement to you heel down players is stick with it if it feels comfortable to you, because I like keeping right heel planted so that I can bounce my left leg. So I can do things like and do things like that where I can have left leg going up and down over here, but it feels totally comfortable because right heel is planted. That's a big reason why I like to be heel down, and it's easier to bounce the beat or heel down also. I feel like I've got more control, I can play quietly better, and so I don't know if there's a limit to my loudness and speed that maybe I will never actually end up reaching because I'm not trying to play incredibly loud and incredibly fast. So hopefully that makes sense. I present that to you to say, if you're a heel down player, stick with it. That's totally fine. Stick with heel down. There's no reason to switch to heel up. And if you're heel up, you might actually want to play around with some heel down because you might find you have more precision that way when you're playing something slower or something more quiet. But you can accomplish whatever you want to accomplish heel down. You don't have to switch to heel up. Number 3, you don't need expensive gear in order to sound good. Because ultimately listening is the key to sounding good. Listening and the way that you hit things, the way you tune your drums, those are the big factors. Now, don't get me wrong, there is a difference between a $4,000 kit and a $400 kit. But I'd be willing to bet that the $4,000 kit does not sound 10 times better than the $400 kit. If you put those side by side and you tune the two kits up really well, I think you'll find that the $400 kit holds its own and is doing more than 10% the quality sound than the $4,000 kit. So does that make sense? How that ratio is not totally even, and so you get more sound for your money with a lower end kit than you do a high end kit. Now, yes, there are other things to factor in, like durability and consistency. How well does the expensive kit hold its tuning versus a low end kit? So we can get into a lot of those things, and the higher end kits generally have higher end hardware on them, and so the hoops are different, and there's different all sorts of fancy things that the low end kit doesn't have. But if you are a beginner, or even if like myself, maybe you've been a gigging drummer, but you don't like spending tons of money. You want to save your money for other things in life that maybe you actually need, and so you don't want to spend it all on a drum set. That's totally fine because you don't need a super expensive kit to sound good. This drum set right here is a Gretsch Renown. It's a maple kit. I love maple drums. I don't think you can ever go wrong with maple shells. In this kit, so the shells, that includes the kick drum, toms, and snare. Actually, there's another little 10-inch tom too. Like $1,700 for the shells. And of course, there's the hardware and all the cymbals and all those other things that you can factor in. But we're just talking the drums. I think it was about $1,700 that I spent. That is not much for a kit that sounds this good. I love these drums. I think they sound fantastic. Sure, I could spend $4,000 on shells like Gretsch USA Customs or a super nice DW kit, and they're going to sound fantastic. But these are pretty close. And I've played on some really expensive kits. I was in a drum shop not too long ago and played on this really cool 60s Rogers kit that they were selling for $3 grand. And I came back home to my kit and hit my toms, and I thought, you know what? These toms sound pretty close to that $3,000 60s Rogers kit. We're talking minute, subtle differences here. And that's really what happens. You can get a kit like this that you spend a little bit of money on, good quality kit. You can get it up there to like 90, 95% or even more percent of sound quality compared to the really nice kits. And even the lower end kit that I've still got over there that I haven't used in a little while, it's a pretty low end starter kit, Ludwig kit. Even that kit sounds good. You can make it sound good. It does its thing. Like, it has its own sound. You can't make it sound like any sound out there. It's not incredibly versatile, but you can make it sound good. And so you can get a lot of sound out of a $400, $500, $600 kit. And so don't be in a hurry to upgrade your gear, because skills are more important than gear. And putting the right heads on your kit, tuning it well, that's more important. And even more important than that is hitting well and developing consistency in the way you hit and making sure you're hitting your toms in the center or slightly off center so that you're getting good sounds. Make sure you're playing steady backbeats. Make sure you're bouncing the beater and playing consistently down there. When you work your technique and your coordination, you develop precision and fluidity on the kit, which in turn makes you sound better, even if you're on a super cheap kit. When you finish this video, I want you to check out a recent one. Say recent, this was a couple years ago. I did a comparison between this kit and a super cheap kit. Actually 3 kits total. This kit, the cheap Ludwig kit, and then the Ludwig Breakbeats compact kit. We compare all those back to back. I want you to check that out, kind of to prove my point here and say that, you know, all 3 sound good. They kind of do different things, but what you need to focus on is your skills and your technique before the gear. Controversial belief number 4, and this one, this is always a tough one because it makes somebody mad, and it's this: electric drum sets are not the ideal practice tool. I've made a few videos in the past about this, and I've been labeled an e-drum hater and how I'm hating on people with e-drums. That's not at all the case. I have students who have electric drum sets. I've had one-on-one coaching students where they've been at their electric drum set every lesson that we've done over Zoom. And I have plenty of students where they're playing on e-drums, and maybe they've got an acoustic kit also, but they practice a lot on the electric drums because they're quiet. And so the point I want to make is that electric drums are not at all ideal, and I think when we're honest with ourselves, I think we know that. But they are a very good practice tool. They're a very good practice tool, just like low volume cymbals, you know, the Zildjian ones with the holes in them. Those are a great practice tool. Mesh heads like the Remo Silent Strokes or Aquarian Super Pads, whatever to muffle down your kit. Those are great practice tools, but ultimately you want to play on the real kit so you can develop your sound and really hear what you sound like and focus on making music. And so ultimately that's where you want to get. Now, with electric drums, you just have to be careful how you approach them. And so I've coached students before on, hey, here's what you need to pay attention to. So you're playing an electric kit. We know that the hi-hats are a little funky. We know that the mix, the volumes of all the drum pads are a little bit wonky. So I want you thinking about, if you were playing a real kit, you've got to make sure you're not hitting cymbals too hard. You've got to give it a firm backbeat and make sure the kick is strong. That way we're thinking in terms of, okay, if we took you from here, from the E-kit, set you down on a real kit, and you started playing, we want to make sure you automatically sound pretty good. And so we've got to approach the electric drums as if they were real drums, so that we're practicing the smart way. And sometimes that means turning off the brain of the E-drums and just sitting and listening to how hard you're hitting things. And if you can spend a little bit of time on an acoustic kit every so often, maybe it's every Sunday at church or every weekend when you play on a house kit, and then you go home and you practice on your E-drums, keep in mind, how did the acoustic drums feel? Can you adjust your E-drums to a more accurate spacing like it's real drums? Can you strike them as if they were the real drums and hit as hard as you would if they were real drums? Those are the things you got to keep in mind. I've got some previous videos on this, and I'll link those if you want to check out more details, more practice tips for playing on E-drums. know that I am not coming down on you for playing on an e-kit. Like I said, I've got a bunch of students that have been doing that, and it makes the most sense for them. They can practice quietly. They can have the drum set up in their kitchen with the refrigerator right there behind them. Sometimes, basically, what I want you to do is I want you to practice. I want you to be able to practice conveniently, and so if an e-kit is the way to do that, by all means. I just want you to approach it the smart way. And so I think we can agree that electric drum sets are not ideal, even the $7,000 ones. The hi-hats are nowhere near the feeling of real hi-hats, and it still doesn't feel like the real thing. So you have to practice on them with the mindset and the approach of, okay, what if these were real drums? That's the approach I want you to take. Belief number 5, Moon Gel is not the ideal muffling device, and it is overpriced. Now, we could probably all agree that it's overpriced because you can buy similar products at the dollar store. These days, it's probably a little more than $1, but you can get those little sticky things that are like a couple dollars maybe. You could probably get them at Walmart, like in the arts and crafts section. And they're essentially moon gels, but a fraction of the price. Now, moon gels are special in a way because they don't really leave residue, at least not much. I've never had much trouble with residue. It's also easy to clean them. They collect all sorts of dirt and grime over the years, but you can actually clean them with soap and water and continue to reuse them for a long time. And I had a pack of moon gels that I reused for a long time. And they accomplished their purpose. But the thing about moon gel, the reason why I'm not a huge fan of them is because ultimately what they're doing is they're sucking tone from your drums. Anytime you put something sticky and gooey like that on your drums, what they're doing is they're absorbing a lot of that vibration so that when you hit your drum, there's less tone, right? We put moon gel on there because we want to get rid of the ringing. But the only problem, and I've got a video, I know I keep referencing videos because there's so many videos I've made over the years about a lot of these things going more in depth. So I encourage you to check this one out if you're interested. What I do in this one is I compare different muffling devices and I show you, like literally demonstrate to you how as you add moon gel, you get rid of some of the higher frequency overtones, but you end up enhancing the fundamental boom of the drum. And so you can't really eliminate the ring from a snare with moon gel. It just doesn't really work that well. Same with toms. What it does is it focuses the tone. So if you're wanting to focus the tone so it's more of a distinct boom without any of the higher overtones, moon gel can work. They can do that, though I would recommend the dollar store alternative that actually I think sound even better because they're more subtle. The dollar store alternative, maybe because they're smaller, I don't know. They seem to have a more musical way of muffling the drum. I think moon gel, you really got to tear them apart and use smaller pieces and make sure you're not too far out over the drum head in order to get them to work well. As an alternative, I would recommend gaff tape. Gaff tape is a little bit more subtle and you can put a whole bunch of tape around the edge of a drum and it doesn't do a lot. So it's more subtle and it gradually brings down those overtones and it'll gradually help you get that focused, punchy kind of tone you're looking for. And you'll be able to do it in a more subtle musical way, I think. Now, on my snare, you've probably seen in my videos, and this is a common question I get, and I try to have answers to it in places where you can find, because it's such a common question. What is the jingly thing on your snare? So this is just like a bracelet. It's like a piece of jewelry, pretty much, with these little jingly bells. Point is, it's a solid metal object that's resting on the drum head. And what it does, when I hit the drum, this thing bounces up lightly, so the head vibrates, the drum resonates, the full tone of the drum, and then this lands back on the head, choking it out. So it's as if I'm going like this. It's like my hand's going up and then coming back down. It's like a gate, opening and closing. So we've got the full tone of the drum, and then we're just shortening the note length. That's all we're doing with this thing, is shortening the note length. Versus if we have a bunch of tape on here, or worse yet, a bunch of moon gel on here, we're totally choking out the tone 100%. There's no tone to begin with. Versus with this, we can have some tone, and then we can just shorten the note length. So that's why I love having this on a snare. And again, this is all in this other video, and so I'll link it so you can check that out for more detail. But yeah, I'm a big proponent for tape if you want to really muffle things down, focus the tone, but an even bigger proponent for leaving the toms wide open and doing something like this on your snare, especially when you're tuning lower. A low tuned snare with this solves all your ringing issues. All right, here's a controversial one. Number 6, you don't need talent if you have curiosity and work ethic. Now, don't misunderstand me here. I believe that we are all born with God-given purpose and God-given passion and interests and things that we are made to do, that we are meant to do, we are called to do. But I believe that we have to work those things. Every once in a while, you see that random child prodigy on YouTube that just seems to have it all together and they're like 6 years old. But for the other 99.999% of us, we have to work at things to get really good at them. And that all starts with curiosity and the discipline to work it regularly and the passion and the interest that really keeps us going. That's what I believe talent is. And so I think that probably we can agree that talent is this combination of work ethic and curiosity and passion. And so I think we all have this passion starting out. We want to get good at the drums, and it's that passion that drives us. The reason I have this whole belief is because when I first started playing the drums, I was terrible. I didn't have this natural ability to just sit down and sound good on the drums. I was playing so many things poorly. My playing was shaky and sloppy. The mix was bad. It just wasn't good, and it took me time to figure out how to sound good and how to be a good drummer. But that was all driven by this passion. I was obsessed with the drums. I loved music. I loved playing songs. I loved jamming with my friends, playing with my high school friends in our high school worship band at church. And I was so excited about this stuff. And that's what kept me motivated and kept me growing. And so all of that worked together, that passion to keep me motivated so that I had the work ethic to continue practicing for hours every day in high school when I had the time, keep practicing and practicing, so that then it developed something that I think people around me kind of saw and labeled as talent, even though maybe call it whatever you want to call it. You could call it talent, but I think it's that combination of passion and work ethic. So I say that to say, some people are born child prodigies, but that's extremely rare. I believe that you, no matter where you're at, whether you're a total beginner or maybe you're getting back into the drums after years, you might feel like you don't have that natural talent. You watch YouTube videos and you see these crazy drummers doing covers that are all insane and they got their stick tricks and everything. You're like, wow, they're so talented. They're so good at this. They've had to work hard at it too, most likely. Sure, they're the prodigies, but let's talk about us normal people. We've all had to work at this. And so even if you feel like you don't have this natural talent, even if you feel like you're having to work hard to build technique, to build coordination, to become musical, to learn how to listen, to get comfortable playing with people, and to be able to play at your church well, that's normal. These things take time. They take time. Now, finding the weaknesses in your playing so that you know what to practice, that helps you accelerate the process so that you can grow faster. And that's what this channel is all about, and the free e-guides I give you are all about, helping you do that so that you grow more quickly. But ultimately, it takes time. It takes that work ethic, that discipline, which all starts with the passion and the curiosity. And so stay motivated by music. Be passionate about your instrument and put in the time to grow, because those are the ingredients for becoming successful at this and becoming successful at anything, honestly. It's not so much the talent, it's the work ethic and the passion. And if that's what we call talent, so be it. Okay, there's talent. But I want to break that down so that you understand, even if you don't feel talented, you can do this, you can master the drums. I hope that you believe that, because I believe that about you. Know that you can do this. Number 7, practicing is a waste of time if you're not practicing proper technique. This is kind of a painful one, right? Because we think about how much time we're spending practicing and playing the drums, and we're working on songs, and maybe we're playing with buddies, we're playing in a band. Maybe we've played for decades, but we've never really revisited technique. We've never really evaluated, is what we're doing really working as well as it could? Maybe there's some pain going on, some inefficiencies, some weak hand problems. It doesn't matter how many decades you've been playing the drums or how many hours you've logged practicing. If you're not practicing with good technique, then that practicing is not entirely a waste. If you're working on coordination, because you do build coordination, if you're working on learning songs, you can definitely build playing experience. But what I'm talking about is the hand technique. If you're practicing hand technique, it doesn't matter how many hours, how many years you practice this stuff. If you're not doing it right, you're not going to get any faster. You're not going to fix the weak hand. Your doubles are not going to get better. It's ultimately going to be a waste of time as far as hand technique is concerned. And so that's something that's such a core mission of this channel. That's the non-glamorous drummer thing, that we want to master hand technique. We want to get this squared away, because it doesn't matter how much time you spend playing. You could have been playing far longer than I have. I've really been playing for about 20, this will be 20, not 25, 15. I'm not that old. This will be 15 years. 15 years since I bought my first drum set as of this year. And really 12 years since taking lessons and playing with people regularly. You might have been playing for 20 years, 25, way longer than me. But it doesn't matter how long you've been playing if you haven't been working the right things. So it's okay. I don't want to make you feel all guilty and sad about whatever you may or may not have been doing over all this time. I want this to be encouraging. I want to encourage you and say that now is the time to slow down, focus on your technique, Focus on that fulcrum, establishing that fulcrum point as I slam my right cymbal right here. Fulcrum point where you've got the stick twisting right here in your hand, and you've got things nice and loose. Like I've been doing throughout this lesson, I'm going to link additional videos so you can go more in depth with this. It's all going to be nice and categorized below in the description, because this is what I want you to master so that you're able to smoothly play with the stick moving within your hand so that things are effortless and you're able to move around the kit freely, play fills well. Because when you solve your hand technique, everything else gets easier. It's like magic, it really is. Everything else gets easier, your time gets better, you relax more, which allows you to listen better and be more musical. And so no matter where you come from, how many years or decades you've been using bad technique or developing bad habits, it is not too late to turn that around. It's not too late to pause, reevaluate, and totally rebuild your technique and get some really cool results. So, like I said a minute ago, even if you feel like you don't have the talent here, know that, all right, you can make the decision to work on your grip, work on your technique, and you very well can master this, and you really can turn things around. I even have a free e-guide I'll put in the description too, along with other video references. It's called the Fast Fluid Hands Checklist. And we've got all sorts of diagrams and photos of grip so that you can work on really loosening up your hands and doing exactly what you need to do so that you'll know you're on the right track. And so I'll be sure to put that resource there for you also. Number 8, you don't need to consult drum tabs or note-for-note transcriptions in order to learn a song well on the drums. This is something I get some pushback on too, because I think a lot of people, because there are great resources out there, there are great apps that allow you to pull up the note-for-note transcription of any popular song out there. It makes this so easy, you know, to make sure that you're learning a song the right way, learning it note for note. And there are apps that allow you to slow down the audio and like play along with it super slow. And it's like playing along with like a karaoke track, a drumless track pretty much. And you know that you're playing it exactly right and you got the notation there. That's a great tool. And there's nothing wrong with doing that in your practicing. If that's you and that's what you've enjoyed doing, that's totally fine. Keep doing that. But I don't want you to be stuck there. It's easy to get stuck in this realm of, well, if you take away the notes, I'm lost. Like if you turn on the radio, not that many of us really listen to the radio. Maybe you do. I don't. If you turn on the radio and it's some random song playing and you try to play along and you feel totally lost because you don't have the notes in front of you, that's a problem. I want you developing your ability to be creative and to improvise, which means developing your ear. I want you to be able to learn a song by ear because in the long run, that's way more efficient and a way better system for learning songs than trying to learn them note for note. Because think ahead a little bit. Imagine if you're reaching your goals and your dreams of playing with a band. Maybe you're even playing with an original band where you're having to create drum parts. Where does the whole notation thing fit into that? You're not going to have time to learn a 30, 40, 60 song set list, writing out all the details, or downloading transcriptions online and trying to read the whole time you're playing. That's ridiculous. Nobody can do that. Maybe you can use those things as tools occasionally to check and like make sure you're playing something right if you want to nail it note for note. But ultimately, you've got to wean yourself from that. You've got to definitely move away from that if you want to really become the musical drummer that you know you're capable of being. This is something I teach in my free e-guide, 5 Steps to Learning Any Song in Under an Hour. And so this is just another resource I'm going to recommend. What I'm hoping is that throughout this video, 1 or 2 or 3 of these points is going to resonate with you. And so you're going to go dig into that resource and go further because there's a lot of different directions you can go from this lesson right here. And so download that guide. There's also some videos on listening here on the channel to develop your ear so that you can become a more musical drummer, so you can develop a cheat sheet charting system so that you can quickly write out a song without having to write notes, even if you don't know notation, so that you can mentally see the song in your head and know how the song goes and be able to sit down and actually play it like a musician. So this is something you can check out if this is something you feel like you've been struggling with. So know that you don't need note-for-note transcriptions. You don't need drum tabs, sheet music. You can learn songs by ear. You are capable of doing this. You just got to learn the steps, learn the method. Number 9. So this is an interesting one. You will never master something if you don't practice it over and over while listening carefully and being fully aware of exactly what you're playing. This is especially true with coordination exercises. If you're working on a coordination thing or you're working on a particular groove that's challenging, you will never fully master that groove unless you're willing to play it over and over again for like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, however many reps, over and over again, until you reach the point where you're able to actively listen to what each limb is doing. So you might start this off with a basic beat. That's just something simple. And a way to test your ability here is, all right, can I change the volume of my kick on demand? Get louder or softer without changing the hands. Which is hard to do. It's hard to get soft on the kick while staying loud on your hands, or get super loud and not let your hands get louder. But try doing that with different limbs and getting louder with the right hand or softer with the right hand while keeping the other things going. And that's kind of the step one to really gaining that full command over each limb, so you're fully aware of what each limb is doing. There's kind of a passive coordination where you learn something and you're able to play it. Like, you've got the 4 limbs doing their thing and it's fine, but that's not true coordination unless it's active coordination, where you can actively change and manipulate any of those parts, where your brain can fully connect with one of those limbs and be fully in command of what it's doing while still keeping the other ones going, kind of on autopilot. And so that's the deeper level of coordination you want to get to. And ultimately, you will never reach that where you've fully mastered what you're doing and you have full comfort and command over what you're playing until you put in a lot of repetition. Now, what I tell my one-on-one students all the time is the secret here is use whatever it is you're practicing, the hand technique you're working on, the coordination exercises, use these in songs, and then use these on gigs. Like, use the stuff that you're learning when you're playing at church on Sunday, when you're playing with a cover band Friday night, when you're at a jam session, when you're just jamming with buddies, when you're playing along with songs in your practice space. Be using these things and know that the more hours you log, the more time you spend at the kit, the more comfort you build. That comfort is coordination. The more time you spend, the more in command of the kit you become, and the better you build that coordination. And that can be done by playing music, just pulling up a playlist and jamming out to it and having fun when you're using what you've been learning. And so that's really the hack, the shortcut, if you will. There's not really a true shortcut here to building coordination, but that's a great way to have more fun doing it so that you log more hours, so that you really can master your instrument and feel at home. For me personally, I started feeling much more at home behind the kit when I was playing 3 or 4 hour gigs every weekend. I was just logging so much time. I was playing all the time, and with this particular band, we were improvising and jamming all the time, and so it was working my listening, and I was getting creative, and so it was pushing my coordination and my technical abilities, and we were doing that, 8 hours every week. Plus, we were having some rehearsals every once in a while, and so logging that time was huge. That helped so much. So it wasn't just sitting and practicing exercises that helped me build the coordination, though that got it started. It was using those skills, using that coordination on gigs, playing music, that really helped solidify everything. And that's probably the way it's going to be for you too. So you always want to come back to the music. All right, we've gotten through 9 polarizing beliefs, on to number 10. This 10th one doesn't sound that controversial at first on the surface level, but when you think about it and when you look around at what a lot of people are teaching on YouTube, you'll see that this isn't exactly a philosophy held by everyone. And that's what I've noticed. When I first started this channel and got into the figuring out, like, what do I want to teach you, and it zeroed in on the whole non-glamorous thing, I realized this very much goes against the grain of what a lot of people are teaching on YouTube. I want to start by telling you a saying. I'm sure you've heard this before. It's the give a man a fish, feed him for a day, teach a man to fish, feed him for a lifetime. That whole concept of, I could teach you one little thing that'll help you out today. But if I can teach you how to teach yourself and teach you how to self-analyze and teach you how to grow and be self-disciplined in learning the drums, then that's going to serve you for a lifetime. And so this number 10 controversial belief is this: overarching core concepts are more beneficial than song, groove, or fill-specific lessons. Overarching core concepts, what we're all about here on the Non-Glamorous Drummer, are more beneficial than teaching you a song, a groove, a lick, or something about a fill, something specific from a song, because I don't want to just give you a fish for the day. I don't want to just give you one little thing to practice and, hey, have fun with that. I want to teach you how to fish. And that's been my whole mission, my whole philosophy here since I started this channel. I want to teach you how to fish so that you're actually building a solid foundation, and you're building up the ability to self-analyze and know what you're doing and find your weaknesses so that you can grow on your own, so that if we never meet face-to-face or one-on-one, you can learn a lot from these lessons and you can truly reach your goals on the drums and become the drummer that you're called to be, because you've got the right core resources. And so it's funny to me that it ends up being listed as a polarizing belief, but I realize it goes against what a lot of other educators out there are teaching on YouTube, where there's a lot of lessons like top 10 so-and-so fills to learn, or favorite drum intros of all time, or learn this lick. And if you've been around here for any amount of time, you know that I'm not really teaching you licks. If I do teach you some sort of lick, there's a more underlying purpose behind that, and I end up teaching you a core technique that actually helps you with a bunch of other things. And that's always the way this needs to work, where it's not just one little thing, it's what's the underlying concept, what's the core concept that helps you across the board. And so that's a big belief of mine. And my guess is that if you're still watching this video at this point, and if you've watched a lot of my videos, it's because you resonate with that, and you agree with me on that, and you've benefited from that, and you've seen development in your core abilities on the drums because of that. And so I'm glad you're with me. I'm glad you're a fellow non-glamorous drummer working alongside me through this, where you're working on improving hand technique, which improves every area of your playing. You're working on building coordination, which helps with everything. And these core things that aren't just little licks or little goofy hacks or tips. We're serious here. We're serious about growth. And so I hope that you've benefited a lot through this. And so that's a very important belief of mine. I think ultimately the reason it's not a popular philosophy is because it means that you learn how to learn without me. I want you to get to a point where you can continue growing even if you don't watch any of my videos for months. Because I want to give you some solid stuff that'll help you out. Yeah, I want you to keep coming back. I want you to keep watching videos. I want you to dig into my content and download my e-guide so I can send you more stuff when you're on my email list. I want you to dig in and go deeper with me. Don't get me wrong. But I also want you to have the ability to really grab onto some simple concepts so that you can grow a lot without me. And I think my guess is that some teachers are maybe afraid of that, afraid of teaching you too much or giving you too much power, because then you don't need the teacher anymore. And so I want to be your coach, where I can then back off and say, all right, take this, run with it. You can accomplish your dreams on the drums. Go and do it. Go and take action. And that's my hope, and that's my goal for you today. All right. This has been fun. I've really enjoyed sharing this. You can tell me in the comments if you agree on a lot of this, if you disagree, if I offended you, if instead you're like, yeah, I love this stuff, Steven, I'm totally with you. I'd love to hear that too. So let me know what you think in the comments. Let me know which of these you might have agreed with or disagreed with. But hey, before you go, be sure to grab my 3-part practice guide, Know What to Practice, How to Master the Drums if you are busy and you have a life, and you have work and a family, and you've only got like 15 to 30 minutes a day. This guide presents you with the core things that are most important so you can work on solving your weak hand, building fluidity around the kit, increasing your coordination, 4-way coordination. There's lots of cool exercises that you can then take and use in music so you can really master these skills. Overall, this guide is going to help you stop wasting time, help you get to the results you want more quickly so you can reach your goals and reach your dreams. So go grab that. It's in the description. Thanks for hanging out today. This has been fun. Thanks for hanging out with me and watching this lesson. Be sure to check out all the additional lessons and all the additional resources that I've pointed you toward from the things we've skimmed through today, because I know we've covered a lot of potential content. This could have been a 3-hour video if I'd gone in depth about all this stuff. So thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe if you're new. Know that wherever you're at in your drumming, you can do this. You can accomplish your goals and your dreams when you work hard at this stuff. Even if you feel like you don't lack the talent, you can do this. So I will see you on the next lesson. Have a great week. Stay non-glamorous.